And by the way, you'll have to pardon me because I was woken up at like 2 o'clock this morning because my neighbor decided to have a row with her mother. At least that's as far as I can tell, through all the incoherent screaming and sobbing through the wall, for the better part of an hour.
Wow.
So, good day and welcome to Nerd Rage, episode 183?
Is it 183?
I think it's 183. It's either 183 or 184, but I think the last one was 182. So I'm gonna go with 183 and probably be completely wrong. What?
I said we're in the 180s.
Well, yes, definitely. Anyway, yes. So that little open aside, yeah, we're kind of in a state at this exact moment.
We're actually in two states. He's in a separate state than me.
You know which kind of state I mean.
Yes, we're waiting on our special guest. And just, oh, wow, yeah. I just got home from a funeral, and Ose was woken up super duper early today by screaming and crying.
Yep,
from his neighbors.
And work wasn't exactly stress-free or anything, so that also has also drawn down my energy quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
John just messaged me. He didn't have Skype, so it's going to take a couple more minutes. Anyhow, I just I bought his books, and I've read actually the first chapter of For Steam and Country, so I can't speak with any authority on the content of those, but yeah, it's the Stars Entwined is sort of the sci-fi space. His I guess space opera is the word for it. And then For Steam and Country and Night in Training are in the same series. So steampunk, if you're into that kind of thing.
I actually do enjoy steampunk, though mostly for its aesthetics more than anything. So
yeah, well, as far as aesthetics, like the covers on his books are amazing. I really like the steampunk covers. I mean, the other one's good too, but
is that really his name on Skype?
What is it?
Sith Lord Otomo.
Let me ask him. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't imagine it be anyone else at this exact moment, so,
Smile of the Shadow.
Let's see here. What? No. Where? Oh, there it is. Yep, that is correct.
Okay.
So I'm going to accept that. And oh, hi. I forgot that was going to swap over the forgot that was going to swap over the screen here on XSplit. So we're going to add him into Skype here. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yo.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Do you want video or do you want just audio?
Video is
sure. We'll go with,
but we'll see how it handles.
How do I turn on video? Okay. I didn't bring my hat or nothing.
Okay. Yeah, you're fine. Your picture there was amazing, honestly, but But yeah, we'll go with your face because it'll fit a little better, I think, with the general theme.
Nice.
See, I couldn't see the picture, so this works
Oh, you
better
couldn't
for
see
me.
the picture?
Anyways.
All right.
Yes. I'm suddenly curious about how Skype is handling this call now, though. Am I hosting it now? Sorry, I'm just suddenly having a moment there. Okay, so anyway, Shannon, I'm actually going to let you take it away. Am I looking? Yes, I'm looking in the right direction. Awesome. Anyway,
I don't know. My screen looks different than your screen. You always ask me if you're looking in the right place, and I have no idea.
It doesn't matter for you. I'm not asking you. It doesn't matter for you. It only matters for me.
Okay. I like how you talk through your editing before you get to the editing. Anyhow, this is John, and I don't know if I'm saying your last name right, so you can introduce yourself.
Hey. I'm John. So are we recording right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't worry, honestly, because there is editing, and if that part right before this point was too awkward, yeah, I will clip it just for the sake of.
Every part with you is too awkward.
That's a good point.
All right then. Hi everybody. I'm Jon Del Arroz, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, author of, I used to say for Steampunk Country, as that's my award-winning book I was best known for, but now I am #1 Amazon best-selling author of Night Training, so I'm going to have to go with that from now on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
#1 Amazon best-selling author. That sounds very prestigious. And
Okay.
I would just like to point out that I helped you get there.
It was 100% you. So.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't really get to that point until after I made my purchase.
It makes sense to me.
No comment.
Osei has a lot of catching up to do. I'm always telling him he's got to read or watch something, and then he's out living life like a normal person, and it's just completely disappointing.
That's a complete lie. I don't live my life at all.
What, is somebody else doing that? Is that a job that you wouldn't do? Is there an immigrant living your life right now?
There's no one living in my... Okay, you know what? This is getting a little bit too personal.
Wow, guys, what kind of show is this?
A nightmare. It's our personal nightmare, self-inflicted, once a week.
We talk about culture and different things a lot, and a little bit of politics. So that's why it's nerd rage, because when we talk about politics, we get kind of ragey.
Admittedly, I don't even know how to describe us anymore. I feel like it's more accurate. I feel like it is more accurate to describe us more like a fireside chat, more so than a real proper professional show.
Does that mean I can heat up my my lunch and just start eating on the air here?
Honest to
All
goodness,
right.
yes. She has done this multiple times, and
While we're recording. So, yeah.
it's like if our co-host has done it, you can do that. I think.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's that kind of show. So I actually read the first chapter of For Steampunk Country. It's a little out of order. Yeah. It's so far so good. I wish that I had gotten in a little more of that so that I could bring up different plot points. But it's the setting. You've got sort of this is a different place. It's a world that you created.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can take this a bit from here. So basically, I noticed in steampunk, most steampunk out there was not really in its own sort of fantasy world, but really was like an 1800s alternate history sort of thing, usually taking place in Victorian England. And
right.
so I liked the setting components and the window dressing of that, and I thought, you know what, I want my own fantasy world. I want my own sort of setup, and I want to just be able to just be creative without any limitations, and just be able to create this like sort of epic fantasy, sort of war epic like we have it with Star Wars or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I set out to do that with this. And so a lot of it early on is just kind of setting the stage so you know what to expect and know, kind of how the people talk and what the people wear, and that there's airships floating around, most importantly. And that's kind of the beginning of the book there.
It's almost like it fits its genre.
Yeah, I think that's why it went pretty gangbusters, partially. Because so like I said, so much of steampunk really just was like a romance in the 1800s that just happened to have gears and things like that. And then you go to the other extreme where people just kind of make horror books out of it. And so I think people always kind of wanted like a swashbuckling adventure, and there wasn't so much of that out there. And so it's done well for me. I'm quite happy right now.
I like it. I haven't really been into steampunk. Of course, every time I go to a con, I see it. So it's the aesthetic of it is kind of interesting. But it's just not a genre that I really delved into. And then I read Larry's Grimoire series, which is, as I've been told, is diesel punk and not steampunk. So,
correct.
But I was like, I could get into this. So I could delve a little deeper in this sort of this brand of story. So when I told you I was going to get those books after my next paycheck. So after that happened,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I went ahead and got the Stars Entwined as well, because I figured why not. I would normally buy 2 or 3 books at a time, anyways.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that Stars Entwined is my best written book. Like it's I would say just structurally and with the it's got different characters that actually take their own perspectives. So it's got a lot more complication to it, and I put a lot more into the world building in that. But for Steampunk Country, just seems to like have that fun factor, that seems to just get people really hyped about it. So I don't know. They both have their merits, and I can they both have their drawbacks too. But I don't really want to talk about those.
Naturally.
So yeah, it's interesting writing in 2 different genres, and actually now I'm kind of doing a third because I'm doing a lot of superhero stuff also. So
the comic books, right?
The comics are about to drop. I'm going to do 2 different comics this year, which will be crowdfunding. The first one's going to be Flying Sparks. It is a superhero thing, a hero and villain in love. It's like the Batman-Catwoman relationship, but reversed, sort of, because that you kind of always wanted and never really developed. And DC teased they were developing and did this whole wedding issue just recently, which was not nice to do to fans because they didn't follow through. But I followed through and actually make this a pretty good relationship drama, like in the middle of a superhero story. So it's about 50-50. And that was kind of my high concept of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually sounds really interesting.
Yeah, that'll be launching on Tuesday. I'm pretty excited about that. So my artist is a guy named Jethro Morales, and he's been on Green Hornet and been on Deja Taurus, the what's that? Edgar Rice Burroughs character. And so he's done a lot of superhero. He's done some sci-fi, and he's also the artist of my sci-fi project. So as soon as you see this, you'll see kind of like the progression of how we then just transferred our working together into sci-fi. And I've worked with Jethro for years, so I just love this guy. He's just such a good artist. Sci-fi project is The Ember War, which is an adaptation of Richard Fox's novels. And Richard Fox is a name that like circles around. A lot of people don't know who he is, and it shocks me because he sells books better than almost everybody out there. He sells hundreds of thousands of copies of his books, and these are extremely successful novels. So I expect this comic's really going to take off once people see it.
Okay. I am excited to see what else you come up with.
Yeah.
You have to know some amazing artists. The artwork, I think, the cover art on your other books is just phenomenal. I love all of it. So,
Thanks.
I kind of feel like you're sitting on a gold mine of artists over there.
Yeah, and I'm using several different artists at that, just depending on the tone I'm looking for and the genre I'm looking for, really to dial it in. I'm a business guy to start, and so before I set to anything, I want to get the perfect looking product out there that really sells the product. And I would never skimp on cover art, never skimp on any art whatsoever, because visual is just so important, and it also sets the tone for when you're reading. Like, you think it's the first sale impression, but you see that book cover and you kind of know what to expect, and you have a mental impression from that also. So it helps the readers along for what they can expect also.
Yeah, it definitely sets the tone. Like I said, I hadn't really gotten into steampunk, but just looking at those covers, I was, that just looks fun. And like you said, swashbuckling seems adventurous, and so that really, it wasn't the reason I bought the books, but it was a reason why I bought the books.
Yeah, definitely. On the marketing angle, I don't know if this is like a writer type podcast or not, but on the marketing angle, you really need like 7 points of contact before somebody decides to make a purchase. I mean, that's just the rule of thumb. Sometimes it happens faster, sometimes it takes slower, but it takes on average 7. So you got your cover, you got your blurb, and then you're out there posting it in different places. It takes a while for people to see it and then go, oh, okay, I guess I'll click on this and check it out. And that's and there's a lot of different elements that go into that. And I spend a lot of back end work almost every day working on it, even though it seems like I post a lot. There's that too, but there's a lot going on.
Oh, speaking of posting, you recently dedicated this rise to the top on Amazon to your haters.
Yeah, the haters and losers.
Got in a bit of trouble on Twitter.
Yeah, so I was making a very nice post to. There's a lot of people who, if you don't know me, I kind of gained popularity in early 2017 because a local convention stopped having me speaking at their convention after 5 years, and after my first book finally came out, like just a couple months before, they dropped me, and dropped me and all unfriended me because I was wearing my "Make America Great Again" hat, and they didn't like that. So, I found out very quickly that the sci-fi publishing community turns on a dime. They are so rabidly just anti anybody even center. If you're in the center, they hate you because you're not pure enough. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy, and that all happened. That went down, and I wrote a very innocuous post that said, "Hey guys, a science fiction convention should really be about like, I love this book and I love this TV series. It should be fun where we could all hang out together. We shouldn't just be like bogging it down in politics." And when you treat former guests like this, or you treat authors like this, and then you go and have a bunch of panels about like minorities are treated terrible in fiction, women are treated terrible in fiction, down with the patriarchy in fiction, and that's your panel list. Like, nobody wants to come and pay $100, spend their weekend, and then just get lectured and feel like crap all weekend. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's terrible. So, and I wrote that, and I didn't name names. I just mentioned that, and they all just like absolutely lost their minds on me, and it just escalated from there. Because once you're on the bad boy list. We've all seen how it goes.
The bad boy list.
Oh yeah.
You just
the black sheep. You're not welcome.
Yeah, and oh my gosh. So I know you're a big Larry Correia fan, right?
Yeah.
So I finally got to meet him 3 weeks ago in person, and oh my gosh, I've never encountered just like a nicer, gentler man in my entire life. It's unbelievable.
Everyone who's met him says that he is so nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, you have these SJWs online trying to get him kicked out of every con because he's, bigot, racist, sexist, all the S, and they don't feel safe it's not a safe space for them anymore. And he's just, everybody that's ever met him, like, he's the nicest dude.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. They treat people who have different opinions than them about voting or even the books they read as criminals. And it's like, nobody's a criminal here. None of us have criminal records. None of us have been accused of crimes. So like, what? This is just very bizarre. And I think unfortunately it's hurt the industry so badly over years that a lot of people have tuned out of both science fiction books and comic books. People don't want to deal with this, when they're trying to get their escapist entertainment. And that's what it comes down to.
Right. Yeah. That is very true.
And I would argue that's universally true across almost every medium of entertainment these days.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it with football too, right? I mean, nobody wants to fault anybody for having their political opinion or being upset or whatever.
I do.
Yeah, I know you do. Most people don't. But you know what? If I'm paying $300 to go watch somebody throw a football, like, I don't want to be lectured to at that moment, right? So it's like, do it on Twitter, do it on your own time, but like, this is not the time for it. And that's kind of my argument with conventions too. It's like, guys, just like, these people we have fans. I have a lot of fans. Larry has a lot of fans. If you ostracize us and our people decide never to come to these things again, I mean, you're losing a lot of dollars, and for what?
Right.
Like, because you hate us because somebody online told you to? I mean, come on.
Well, and something that I've noticed just since becoming a Korea fan, their opinion of him and the sort of vitriol that they spew about him extends to the fans. We're all guilty by association just because we like his books. Yeah,
I had that yesterday. I'm a little more of a direct confrontational fighter. So if somebody attacks me or if somebody attacks one of my friends, I'm going to tag him and be like, "What's up? You want to go?" And they're not used to this. They're used to. I mean, even Larry to some extent, does I'm a professional author. I've got to write books, and I don't have time for this. And he doesn't. Granted. So I'm just going to walk away, and you have your fun over there. I'm doing my thing, and I'm making money, and you lose anyway. And they get that attitude, or they get or they've had just like people on the conservative side, not Larry, just shut up because they just want to fall in line and they don't want to cause waves, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the two types that they typically deal with. So when somebody came in and says, you know what, I'm not going to take it anymore, and I'm going to rub it in your face. That you've treated people horribly, it drives them crazy. So yesterday, Mike Glyer is a guy who has written a ton of articles, just like blasting me, Larry Correa, Sarah Hoyt, Brad Torgerson, all the way down the line. And he has I call it the hate website, and it's just a bunch of gossipers within the industry who go on there and just write nasty comments about conservative authors. And so, of course, I tagged him when I hit my #1 bestseller yesterday. And I was like, when are you going to read it, Mike? And immediately, this actually plays to what you said. I'm like, I'm successful here despite you and despite everything you did. It feels good, honestly. It's very petty, of course. But immediately, he went to attacking my fans and said, well, if those are your fans, that I don't want to be successful. It's like, that's almost more insulting to me. When somebody goes after people who are just not media personalities, who are just reading my books, that really bothers me. It's leave people alone, let them enjoy what they want. And unfortunately they can't even do that.
Right. Yeah. I have to say, I have been highly amused because you troll hard. It is a thing of, it's like its own art. Your trolling is kind of fascinating to watch.
Well, I suppose trolling is an art in that way, isn't it? There's a fine line between just being a dickhead and actually being entertaining.
I am not going to acknowledge that I do trolling.
your direct confrontation with people who hate your guts is quite entertaining. I'll put it that way.
My willingness to reach out across the party lines and talk to them.
Excuse me. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. I should take a sip of this tea.
In all honesty, I do. So this is kind of a fun aspect of what I do also. And it really gets under their skin. Like this almost gets under their skin more than anything else, is that I will actually reach out and be super nice to them. And so I've had a lot of run-ins with the president of the Science Fiction Writers of America, and they banned me, of course. And
Of course. Yeah.
you know, they put out this statement. They put out a statement saying this is not about politics, just so you were clear. And it's like, sure.
And then it follows, and it's all about politics.
they never elaborate on specifics, so you know how it is.
Just he's really mean. We don't like him, and he has ideas that we don't like.
Yeah, but it's not politics.
Of course.
Yes, it's just you see the note. You just see the notice, and it just slowly crossfades to you in a MAGA hat. It's just.
Right. It's just his association with that evil Trump. Which is not political. It's a human right.
Right. A race of ideas that's not inclusive.
I first came across her because she started posting on this File 770 site, and they were trashing me, and she called one of my posts on my blog egregious stupidity, which I'm going to use as a blurb on one of my books, by the way. So I've got a list of blurbs, and my short story. You'll want to grab my short story collection because the entire back cover is just going to be blurbs from these people and just like the awful things they say about me. So, but so I messaged her at that point and on Twitter, and I'm just like, you shouldn't. You're the president of an organization representing the writers out here, and I'm an up and coming writer. I'm on my way up. Your job is to defend people like me. Your literal job as a creative guild is to make sure there's space for people like me who are trying to make it. You shouldn't be attacking me. And then she didn't like that, obviously, and so we fought over politics a little bit.
Were you mansplaining her job to her?
Yeah, right.
Were you manspreading while doing your mansplaining?
I have a pretty good spread, guys. It's like I can't really.
I feel so microaggressed against.
Well, yeah, because you're on a show with me, Shannon.
I know, all these men and their shenanigans.
So that went on for a while. Long story short is I tried to patch things up, and it went, and she eventually escalated it again. She didn't like it. And after that, I unfortunately, like, I do this. It's like, I have a problem. I try to settle it. It's like, let's talk. No, I won't talk to the likes of you. Okay, then I'm going to meme about you. And that's that's how it goes. So I made after about a month or two of confrontation with her, I made a meme where I poorly photoshopped the Mean Girls poster and just put her face on it. And she absolutely lost her mind at that point. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the lesson is just like, I mean, you should. I always tell people this. It's like, you shouldn't go on the internet and attack somebody you don't know, especially somebody you don't know who like actively admits he's on 4chan every day. So. Just saying. But Kat, if you watch this, because I know you watch all my shit. If you watch this, I got nothing but love, Kat. And so, I mean, just I'm done with the feud whenever you are. So it's not profitable.
I'm really excited about those hate views.
Yeah. Oh boy, I can't wait to moderate the comments section after this one goes up. Hopefully tomorrow.
Action. Here we go.
Oh man, I shouldn't be talking about this stuff. The proper thing to do is to ignore this stuff and only talk about the writing. But
yes, of course, the
but
proper thing.
That's also boring. So
I love the idea of having those blurbs on the back of your short story collection, especially given the title.
oh yeah, I told you about that. So my short story collection is just going to be titled "Make Science Fiction Fun Again," and it's just going to be a bright red cover, and it's going to look like the MAGA hats. So yeah, they'll have fun with that.
And you had that on the hat. You were, what con were you at?
LibertyCon, yeah.
LibertyCon, okay.
Wow, that was the most. It's still the most bizarre situation in my life. Like, I show up at LibertyCon, and I have been online, promoting my products. I'm very. This is what I do a lot. But I show up, and there's dozens of people wearing my T-shirts, which just say Happy Frogs, and then my hats, which are just they're MAGA hats, but they say "Make Science Fiction Fun Again," and they're just by people walking around the con, and I almost can't believe that it's real. But I know all these people are going, wow, this will be really funny to do this, and so that's the real reason they're doing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, honestly, people don't like being told that they can't like something just because someone else disagrees with, your political ideas. Or
that's kind of where I've gone even further. It's like, wait a minute, so you're telling me I can't associate with this person? So I'm gonna. It started with Brad Torgerson, my sort of like my red pilling, I guess. It was 2015. Whenever the big was it 2015 when the whole thing went down? It's 2015, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Whenever it was, the sad puppies thing, and yeah,
sad puppy 20.
The one that really blew up.
15.
2015, 2016, somewhere in there.
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter. We're getting into like old man talk here. Like, I don't remember what year it was. Right. All right. But I was in these conventions, and as I mentioned my local convention before, I would go to these local conventions. We're hanging out with sci-fi writers, and they're all like, Brad Torgerson is making people cry. And I'm just like, what's he doing to make people cry? He's getting people nominated for awards. Why would people cry? Why would people cry over that? Because he's evil. It's like, and everybody would be like this. So I'm like, okay. So I log on Facebook and I'm like, oh, there's Brad Torgerson. I wonder if he'll talk to me. I add him as a friend. He accepts. I'm like, huh, okay. Hi, Brad. I've heard you make people cry. What's going on?
Oh, that's awesome.
And he talks to me and just is like, well, here's everything I'm doing. It's just like, everything's getting overly politicized. And then I wasn't looking. Normal people don't look into this stuff, so they don't know. And that's what it comes down to. And so these people have controlled the narrative in the media so long, and that they've just been able to define everyone and everything the way they wanted for decades. And then suddenly, like, these last few years with the internet, we've now been able to just come out and say, here's what's actually happening. And it's just eroded their power base so much. And that's what happened here, basically. And then as their power base erodes, they lash out and just go absolutely bonkers. So that's what happened with Brad, I found out after researching and talking to him. And I'm like, wow, I just talked to this guy for, 2 hours. And, like, he's a big author. And I'm just some nobody who asked him why he's making people cry. And he's nice. Right? And so I'm like, I guess, if they're saying this about him, who else are they saying this stuff about, and what's, incorrect about that? And eventually it led to, Sarah Hoyt, she gets the same treatment, and Larry gets the same treatment, and the evilest of all evil people in the entire evil realm of evil, Vox Day, I started talking to him too, and it's like, wow, he's nice too. What the hell?
You're not at all what your haters said you were.
So, yeah.
I didn't know where you were going with that last one. I thought you were fixing to say John Ringo.
John Ringo's not that evil, is he? I don't know.
No, he isn't. It was.
He is a cigar chomping military industrial complex kind of guy, though.
Yeah. There is that. And of course all of his sexist books, it's super sexist, and then they create these entire fables about his sex romps at cons,
Pretty great. So I say that I did actually get to smoke a cigar with Mr. Ringo at Liberty Con this year. That was pretty fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many stories. I don't even know where to go with stuff, guys. It's just like, this is already all over the map to the point where it's just like a train wreck for publicity.
Oh yeah. Good thing. No more than like 50 people are going to watch this at most.
Oh no. Remember all those hate views. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Are we really trying to curse John though? Are we trying to really ruin him?
He's cool with it, so yeah.
This sounds like a challenge accepted. So I'm gonna see how many viewers I could possibly get.
Yes. I mean, what?
Oh gosh.
By the way, I will have to apologize for being a little disengaged. There's like kind of two reasons, besides being tired. I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that. One, we're basically meeting for the first time, so I'm really not sure what to say at all. But also, it's like you're doing so much talking, and it's kind of fascinating, so I'm doing a lot more absorbing than anything. So if it seems like I'm not talking a lot, that's why. I'm spending a lot of time just listening to what you're saying.
My assistant just texted me, do you want coffee or do you want to go to happy hour? Ooh, that's a tough call, guys. I need coffee. All right.
I was gonna vote happy hour, but you do you.
Yeah, the problem is I'm going to a baseball game tonight, so I can't really go out and drink. Otherwise.
You already said this was a train wreck for publicity. How much worse could it get?
You can always have both. Just get an Irish coffee.
Yeah, I got a lot of work to do after this still, guys, because I spent so much time promoting the last couple days to get that like #1 bestseller slot that I didn't write anything. I'm so far behind. It's pretty bad. Yeah. So I'm gonna flood. My goal is to just flood the world with projects. I got a lot of my haters early on. Also like to take the tack of, oh, you only have 2 books out. Who are you to blah 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 blah? And so I've been and trying to schedule this where you were free and we were free and you had all kinds of stuff going on. Somebody, and I don't know who because they're not important to me, but someone was throwing shade at you about just sitting on your butt doing nothing. Not getting anything done, right? It's pretty funny. And so, yeah, so I've gotten that a lot, and it's like I've only been here for like a year. Like I've released 3 books and 2 novellas in it's been about a year and a half total. And, I think that's pretty good. So, but in that time, I have just like finished 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got four novels finished, which I'm like stacking to release kind of as a like binge watch sort of thing. That's my strategy now. I've got my short story collection. I'm going to have this next novel, which is my superhero novel. It's called All the Hero. I'm about 2 or 3 days out of finishing this one. And so I've got 6, and then I've got my Flying Sparks comic book, graphic novel, and then the Ember War graphic novel. I've got like 8 major releases like stacked and ready to go that are done. So,
right.
so everybody's kind of laughing about
totally
this. But it's
doing anything.
I've done all this in the last year and a half. So it's like, okay, how much have you gotten done? And usually the answer is not very much. So,
right.
Honestly, the level of laziness is absolutely astounding.
I'm pretty lazy. Even with this, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be braggadocious about this. Like, if I were not lazy and if I weren't just like an internet addict, like posting memes and stuff, I could probably have double this done at this point. So that is so I am definitely not like your role model in terms of that. I get a lot done, but like my it's proportionate to my my capability, right? My capability is like here, and I'm actually like really lagging behind. So there is that.
But you do have all of, that reaching across the aisle to do.
I do.
And that's very important.
So I did write an email, and I was going to tag all the haters yesterday in email because I have all their. So I mean, you got to keep in mind that this isn't random. Like I was involved in the industry before this. I was kind of like I was a slush reader for a magazine, so I got to know a lot of writers that way. I was helping out a very respectable editor with an anthology in 2014, 2015, who had a lot of big names who were coming across and putting stuff in that anthology. And I've been going to these cons for years, just socializing with all these people. So I was really like in the middle of the ranks, and I have all of their email addresses. Like I have David Gerald's email address. I have John Scalzi's email. I've talked to these people several times. And so in the background, I definitely have this. And I was in the middle yesterday, when I was very emotional yesterday, pretty happy about everything. I was going to write an email just like with my, that I titled it, Still Not Tired of Winning. And then I've got them all like blind copied on here. And I just like circled my #1 new release with like a little red circle MS Paint. And I just wrote, y'all chose the wrong team. Tell the haters and losers hi for me. Next week is my comic crowdfund. Watch how that goes. Peace and love.
Oh, goodness.
But I opted not to send that one. I
But you shared it here, so that's
in the
nice.
moment. I shared it with you guys because you're more important. So, I don't know. I do think about things sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
It's nice that you had that amount of self-control when you were high on winning, though.
That's true. I know, right? That's what I feel like. But,
You should get some points for that. I
right?
mean,
Yeah.
They hand out like tolerance points or whatever.
Yeah. There's no tolerance points. This is a pretty diverse podcast, by the way, guys. So, I mean, we've got like major tolerance points right here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh wait, what's that? They're conservatives? Ah, shit.
Bunch of Uncle Tom. Self-hating.
Oh yeah, I get it all the time. I saw someone. I'm writing an article right now. So I write for the Federalist too. Is the other thing I do. I'm writing an article right now, and I always do it on Marvel Comics. I'm going to spoil one of them because it's just too good. One of the Marvel writers ranted on Twitter 2 or 3 days ago that Israelis are actually part of the white supremacist conspiracy.
I heard about that.
Wow.
It's like, what?
Do you even history, bro?
Why, yes. Hello, Mr. Hitler. We would like you to gas us. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Right.
They're just that dedicated to white supremacy.
It's very bizarre, and so that's kind of what I just feel like we're dealing with, unfortunately. And when they're unfortunately when they're that far gone, there's nothing you can do, and so I choose to laugh about it.
It's funny to me that going back to the Sad Puppies deal, like the year that they had the most diverse amount of nominees for various awards, the gatekeepers were they were so salty about sharing that they wouldn't award them anything,
Yeah, I've found that the more diverse things actually get on the right, that the madder they get because they feel betrayed because it's supposed to be theirs.
Oh yeah.
Because they've grandstanded about it for so long, And it's,
Right.
honestly, it's sick that they grandstand about it. I mean, there's nothing, morally better about me talking to you guys than me talking, if I was on a podcast with two white guys. I mean, it'd be the same. I'm just talking to people, and
Yeah.
normal people just go, I'm just talking to people. But they
Yeah.
actually, they'll go online and go on Twitter and be like, I was on the most diverse podcast ever, ha ha ha, and and try to like make a superiority thing about it.
Okay,
And
that's got to be your title
Right?
for this podcast.
I was on the most
diverse
diverse podcast ever. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm
you
good.
got to read it in a Valley Girl voice.
Or maybe even make podcasts diverse again.
Make podcast diverse again. Ooh, I like that. That's good clickbait.
Hold on, I have to write this down. Wait, I'm just gonna watch it again in editing. What am I talking about?
Wow, talk about old man.
But the reality is, if you go to Worldcon ever, I've been to Worldcon. I'm also banned from Worldcon, for those who don't know. So, they claimed I was, because they have psychic powers. They said I was intending on violating their code of conduct. Is what they said. And then they went on to say we're removing racist bullying, and it's like, wait a minute, what?
That's essentially how they disinvited Larry, though, from Origins. Is we don't want this kind of bullying here, even though there was absolutely no evidence that he had ever bullied anyone.
It's the exact same thing, and eventually because they got a lot of heat from it. It generated a ton of media attention, and so a lot of people came on and started complaining to them. And I mean, the rule is SJWs always double down. So they came up with this story a couple days later, and it was never part of their official communications. So it's like they knew better, but they made it disseminate because I made a Twitter comment after it was a comment to somebody else's thing. So they actually scrolled through and found one of my talking to somebody else. And I said, hey, I'm going to be wearing a body cam at Worldcon because I don't want any hijinks going down. And obviously, I was saying, hey, somebody's going, people are liable to physically attack me. And I'm going to have evidence that I didn't start it, right? And they started twisting it into saying, like they were acting like I was going to be like Jesse Waters getting in people's faces with a camera or something like that. And it's like, no. And so what's interesting is because I'm actually suing them over this because it's discrimination and it's political based. And in the great state of California, there are actually laws against that because there are absurd laws about everything here.
Of course.
And the laws are designed to protect political protesters. And I am a political protester of this industry. It's obviously designed to protect left-wing political protesters going up in corporations, but they can't write laws like that, so it doesn't specify. So it says that. So in the rulings in the cases, political speech is protected and political affiliation is protected for somebody who's going to protest something, and just go to something. So this applies to if I go into a hotel or if I go into a shopping mall. Because it's a public square, it's my right to be there, and the property owner can't just kick me out because I'm a Republican or a Democrat or whatever. That's the law.
Right.
So a convention that is open to the public and is ticketed to the public falls under this because it's a big public gathering event. And so them coming after me like this when they're not coming after John Scalzi, who I could call him a racist bully, I guess, or N.K. Jemisin. And N.K. Jemison's very mean to white people on average. So I see that all the time. So she's not being discriminated against here, and it's because of their left-wing views. It's because of my right-wing views, and so I opened a lawsuit about it, and I'm going to deal with it that way. So it's very unfortunate because these guys just, even though they invented this, they had notice, like back to November of last year. I said, hey, so my original plan was I was going to bring a lot of conservative authors. We were going to get a table, hang out, kind of run our own mini convention there and broadcast it on the internet of just us talking. And that was going to be the plan, and it was going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And of all my conservative authors who were going to come with me backed out. And they did so because it was getting so hot last year with just people getting attacked and things like that,
Right.
that they're like, I don't know that we can come here and be safe. And they're right. And so I wrote the convention organizer in November of last year, and I said, hey, I was going to do this. My conservative fans are backing out because we don't believe there's adequate protection and that anybody wants to help us, and we're afraid of getting physically attacked. I have an email to him saying this, and he didn't respond to me. So 2 months later, he's banning me as if, because I posted I'm gonna protect myself. I'm not gonna protect myself by getting in fights with anybody. I'm just going to have a camera. I'm gonna have a camera on me so that I can have evidence in case somebody attacks me. I mean, that is that's pretty damning right there, and it's honestly pretty terrible also.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't have a problem with, say, a cosplayer, a female cosplayer who is going to have a body cam just to protect against, people touching or making advances or whatever. Because I mean, that falls under some of their,
you would never want to mess with that, and it's the only reason I'm being messed with is political discrimination, right? Yeah. So, a lot of people talked about that for a while. I killed it pretty quick because I respond pretty vocally when all this stuff goes down. And they were like, well, he was going to record everybody, and it's illegal to record everybody in California. Well, it says right on their website, recordings are permitted. So it's obviously not that, but they've never posted any concrete reasons other than calling me a racist bully by proxy. Mm-hmm. And so obviously it comes down to one thing. So I don't know. I'm going to deal with it, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I still have hope for humanity through all this. Like I'm a very optimistic person in general, and I'm sitting here like, these guys have my phone number. There's no way these people want to go through like court over like kicking me out, because it's not, I might show up for a day, hang out at the bar, talk to a couple of my friends in the industry and go home. I'm not going to bother anybody. And They know this. And there's, 3,000-4,000 people there. So if somebody just doesn't want to see me, that's not that hard. It's not that hard to do either, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to go to a baseball game tonight because John might be there. He said he might be there. Well, it's like, okay, well, there's 40,000 people there. The odds of you running into me are like zero. And and even if you saw me, is just seeing me going to trigger you that much? Like, for real?
Yes, it will.
Obviously, they act like seeing you or even being in the same town as you is just gonna,
Well, it's true. I mean, they kicked Larry out of what's Origins? Origins gets 50,000 people. So like,
oh yeah, yeah, the second largest game fair, and they were so upset that he was gonna be there at all. Because it wouldn't be a safe space anymore. They wouldn't feel safe that Larry was sitting at a table.
Right.
I mean,
oh no.
It's just, he's there. He's there with his horrible ideas. His ideas are inside his mind, and his mind is in the building. I'm not safe.
we laugh about it, but this stuff is really scary and terrible. The implications, and just like the step from this to like, if they do happen to see us attacking us physically, is such a thin line. And that's exactly why I emailed them with my concerns, and that's exactly why it's very disconcerting that they didn't reply and that they took these action. It's just very frightening. So,
well, they've been making noise for 2 years now about punching Nazis and punching fascists and all that kind of stuff. And anyone who doesn't fall completely in line with their ideology, they label a fascist and a Nazi. So, I mean, they've already made the justifications for attacking you on site.
Yeah. That's it, and that's the thing is they have already justified in their mind. Robert Crucy made a statement last night, and he's like, "Gosh, let's see if I can find it," because his exact words were just so good. Unfortunately, I post too much; so it's gonna be very hard to find. He said great. He said amazing. Here it is. When a leftist is threatened, it's because of dangerous right-wingers. When a conservative is threatened, it's because the conservative is controversial.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And that's that hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Basically,
What are you talking about?
if-
Double standards don't
if people
exist.
are threatening you. You need to change the way that you behave and think and fall in line so that they don't attack you anymore. That's the message.
Right. Fall in line, shut up, or face consequences. And even though we're threatening you, it's shocking that you don't bow to this. Oh my gosh, what a terrible thing you did. You know, it's
right?
It's unbelievable. So yeah, but you know what? The only proper response to it is to say screw you, and to just keep releasing product and not allow them to hate you away from anything you love. And that's what we have to do in every situation, whether it's video games, comic books, sports, whatever it is. They can't take these from us, and we have to send that message very clearly.
We've discussed before. I had Mike and Richard on talking about doing a Black Tide TV series. We've discussed Star Wars and sort of the fan films, the short fan films that Osei found on YouTube, and he made a couple of posts about those. But, just the way that these rabid leftists and SJWs are trying to keep everyone who doesn't agree with their politics out, and how that's opening up other markets, and how conservatives are sort of going to those markets, and even, your independents and your sort of, middle of the road, like they don't identify strongly either way. So, I mean, do you really feel like this is creating, I guess, opportunity for writers and producers and?
Yeah, big time. I mean, this is where I also get attacked a lot, because it's like I use this as promotion. I use this and I say that this is all stuff to talk about and it's helping my book sales. Well, they go, well, you're just helping your book sales. Well, no, I mean that doesn't mean that it's not awful. It is awful, and I wouldn't if I could just do this job and not have that first. Mm-hmm. I would definitely do that, but I'm already there, so it's already going to happen. And I can either make the most of it or I can just be hurt by it, and so I'm going to choose make the most of it. But there's definitely opportunities starting now, and I think there's a cultural movement where it's really changing over the last year. I mean, you've seen. I mean, we all know how big Larry's gotten. We all have seen other conservatives like John Ringo and Mike Williamson do very well. Mark Wandry is another one who's coming up big time. Richard Fox is one I mentioned before, and now I'm starting to climb up these ranks also. It's because we do have a very loyal base, which is growing, and it's growing because people are so mad at the way that just we're treated, and the way not just the way the authors are treated, but as you said before, the way the fans of the authors are treated. Right. And you can see a parallel in comics starting also. We've been complaining about just how it's been toxic identity politics in comics for a long time. If you guys aren't aware of comics because you haven't been reading them or whatever, I mean, if you look at 2017, they turned Captain America into a Nazi. They changed, I mean, what a poignant social commentary.
Oh boy,
joy. Yeah, people really want to read that when they're buying Captain America, right? And it's like they have a disdain for their audience that's very obvious. And so people are lashing out and they're starting independent creations, and just like the self-publishing revolution in books, which you can self-publish and do things yourself now and not go through their little gatekeeping system. Now in comics, people are going on to Kickstarter and Indiegogo and launching their own comics and just doing their own thing and saying, you know what, I don't need to go work and write for Spider-Man anymore. You're going to gatekeep me out of this anyway. And the first guy who did it was Vox Day last year when he made the Alt Hero deal. He made like $230,000, something like that, for a comic book, and it's crazy. And then this year, a YouTuber who reviews videos, he calls himself Diversity in Comics. Ironically, he came out with his Kickstarter, and it made $330,000. And then DC artist Ethan Van Sciver, he was a conservative working for DC for a long time. He is no longer with the company. He decided to do his own thing. Now he's raised over $400,000 for his comic book. Yep. And there's several other comics. I got to give a shout out to my boys doing Trump's Space Force. It's hilarious stuff. It's by Chuck Dixon. He's a longtime DC writer who's blacklisted. Timothy Lim is the artist, and Brett R. Smith is the colorist. And they're all great guys. Trump Space Force, it's just as ridiculous as it sounds. It's like Trump going out into space and just like shooting up aliens. And it's really fun.
I mean, if you can have a detective crime solving duo with Barack and Joe Biden, then
you can do this.
Trump can go shoot at aliens. It's only fair.
Yeah. I mean, they have to go back, and I really hope that Trump puts up a space wall. So, so they're all doing this.
Asteroid belt is just not good enough. There's got to be a wall.
There's enough projects that are successful, bottom line now, is that it's not a fluke. It's not just one person. It's not a YouTuber. There's a real independent creators revolution going on. And my assistant brought me coffee now. Check it out. It's here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Did you just put a straw in that?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I apologize to the manatees or whatever joke on this shit. So I'm sorry. That was horrible. I'm very sorry.
You are a bad Californian.
I'm very sorry.
What's the number? 500 million, 500 billion, something like that? And they got that number from a child who did a science project.
Yeah. Anyway, the comic industry, it's going well. And I think there's a steady pipeline, and I think there's a committed audience that's not just in it for a one-time thing. I think we are seeing a revolution really start to happen in comics. And, I don't know how my audience is going to translate to comics. This is a big risk. Art is very expensive, guys. It costs so much money to make a comic book. You have no idea. I'm setting my goal to publish for $6,000. It cost way more than $6,000 to make this comic. So if I just hit my goal and it just does that, I'm losing money, but at least I'm getting stuff out there and hopefully building a brand. Yeah. So, and if it does better than that, fantastic. But I don't expect, I have no idea if my book audience is going to translate or not. It's a big risk. But I think a movement's there. I like comic books a lot, and I think I have a fun idea, and I have a really good artist. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, what you said about, fans not liking, being told what they can like, what they can't like, who is allowed to publish and who is allowed to sort of take up space in sci-fi and fantasy, and people responding to that by going to the, the independent publishers and going that route and doing the crowd funds and all of that. I mean, there's definitely a part of me that would support your work just because I don't like being told what I can like and what I can do. I don't like being told, this particular sci-fi isn't, that's not good. We don't like that. You can't do that. So, of course,
you do have to have a certain quality product at the same time, though, and that's
right.
That's what I like to tell people. Is like, hey, yeah, a lot of people checked out my first book or whatever because I'm a political personality, and that helped big time for sure. But if my book sucked, like, they'd be gone very quickly. And so you definitely have to like work your tail off to put out good product. And I think my steampunk books really have that. They definitely have like a Bane Books level of quality to them that's just as important as anything else in this business.
and that really that's I would say my primary motivation, because as much as I dislike the politics of certain writers or certain actors, I can still enjoy the products that they produce as long as they aren't beating me over the head with their politics when they do that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, your books, Larry's books, David Weber, Jim Butcher, whoever, they're producing really good stuff, and that is my primary motivator in buying that and consuming it.
And all of us have one thing in common too, is we're sitting there going, what would people like? I sat there when I came up with Night Training, which is my new release. I had a bunch of people who read for Steam and Country go, you have this male character in your book, and he doesn't really do much, and he's like getting inducted into this like Knights thing, this Steampunk Knights thing, and you don't really do much with that, and we want that. Like, why would you just leave that there? That's gold. And I'm just like, I didn't even realize it. Like, I wrote the book, and it's from this girl's perspective, and it's a first person, so it's like very tight within her. And so this stuff's happening in the periphery, and I'm just writing her story, and I'm not even thinking about it, right? But the fans are like, we want this. I'm like, okay, you want this? We're okay. We're gonna do this. And so I just tried to latch on to what people like and what sounds like a lot of fun. And Steampunk Knights with guns is, you can't beat that. So
No, you cannot.
and that's the goal. So and that obviously resonated. It even resonated better than the first book. So it's definitely keeping your audience in mind and just like trying to create fun for people is the end goal. And our group seems to understand that, and then the like social justice left does not seem to understand that that's actually their job.
They don't. I mean, it's obvious by their very strict gatekeeping that they don't care what people like. They don't care what people want, or even what would fairly represent an audience.
And they say that all the time.
Forcing, this sort of idea of diversity that they have that focuses strictly on the minority that they feel everyone should, identify with somehow.
Yeah, they say this all the time. So when they get criticism because they don't put forward a story and they just put forward this like, well, you know what, Iron Man's a girl now, and you're gonna like it even though it's named Iron Man. Just deal with it. And then people go, this isn't Iron Man because Iron Man, I bought Iron Man, and they go, the story's not for you. Not all stories have to be for you. It's like if you're telling people who have been following this brand for decades that it's not for you. I mean, that's just so insulting. And
I love how they tell you, well, just don't read it, just don't watch it. Like recently they released the artwork for the new She-Ra.
It's so bad.
And I was like, oh my god, it's lazy, it's androgynous, it's just boring, it's awful. They've changed the characters, and then of course people commenting on these pages from like Epic Stream or whatever, and they're all like, well just don't watch it, it's not for you, you're not the audience.
and then when it comes out and the ratings are low, they'll go, if you don't watch it and you don't like it, you're a racist, sexist.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no winning with these people.
Why weren't you watching it? I guess you're just sexist. Yeah.
And then they go, why don't you just make your own? And then as soon as you make your own, they attack the hell out of you, right?
Right. That's the other one. They're always like, well, how many shows have you made?
Right.
I mean, I guess I can make it or break it by not watching it, because then the ratings suck and they pull it off the air.
Yeah. So it's okay. There's opportunity. We're changing things. I think the game's changing. I've noticed like just there's like a feel to the culture that's really changed in the last 3-4 months, where it's just we're going like this and it's changing, and they're so scared because we not only have our side, we have the moderates on our side, we have the people who don't care on our side. The scales have tipped so hard just because of their behavior.
you have liberal progressives on your side, just the ones who aren't insane and only
Yeah.
care about social justice.
Oh yeah.
All the time, all day.
I get messages. That's the thing that people don't understand is I get messages from readers who are on the left. I get authors who are on the left. I would never name them, and they always go, "Well, you're lying about that," and it's like, I'm not lying about this, but I'm not going to name them because if I named them and it came out, you would destroy this person just for talking to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's terrible, but they're out there, and I'm getting more like as this is going, I get more of them, and they actually, they're actually thanking me for speaking out because there's even publishers out there, editors and publishers who I can't name, who are like, yes, the culture is getting so toxic. Even as a Democrat, I'm seeing that. This is me paraphrasing him.
Right.
Even as a Democrat, I'm seeing that if you don't like have like this purity line, you just get destroyed, and it's really troubling. And when you're getting people who are saying I'm a Democrat and I'm siding with you, that's a very, very interesting sign.
Yeah.
So
it's essentially a cultural walkaway movement, which is fueled by Russian bots, apparently, because that's how everything works.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. And Candace Owens, a Russian bot.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I'm glad someone else finally recognizes this truth. All right.
But, I mean, that's what it is, though. It's they're so stringently trying to control what can happen, and trying to force change or force perspective changes in audience. And I've just I kind of follow a lot of fan pages. So movies, comic books, TV shows, literature, whatever. And people get mad when you mess with their fandoms. They just get pissed off. So when you have, characters changing to become female or changing to become gay or whatever, and it doesn't fit the character, they're like, why aren't you creating something if you really want that, perspective to be represented? Why aren't you creating something instead of taking everything that we love and changing it?
Right. That's
and
the thing. They're doing all of this on our childhood properties. It's Star Wars. It's Spider-Man. It's Captain America. They're not going out there and creating memorable things that people love at this point. They are, anything of theirs. You can't name a lovable character that they've created because they don't exist.
Right.
And it's all on things that a lot of people love and that are timeless sort of things that don't need to be politicized, and that should be for everybody. And they've just taken them and just like really thrown them all off the rails. And it's just in an effort to like stick a middle finger up at the audience too. It's really sad.
Yeah, and hence the walkaway. The cultural walkaway. People don't like being treated that way. They don't like for their, the things that they've grown, up with, the things that they've grown to love, and the characters that they have known as being a certain way for decades, to suddenly be something else just to suit this, very narrow worldview.
Yep.
And, part of the trying to force a perspective change, or to force, a change in ideology in the consumer is to take things that are, well loved and, have sort of been able to stand the test of time and completely revamp them instead of creating new things, because they know that it won't be loved. So they have to take something that's already loved and then ruin it.
That's the truth.
Okay, then. So we've actually been recording for a shockingly long while, and it might be a good idea to actually end it.
No problem.
As much as I've been enjoying this conversation immensely, mostly your two conversation, as much as I've been enjoying it, it's probably a good time to put an end to it.
Nice.
But
to end it. I like how that sounded very authoritarian.
Yeah,
You must be a fascist.
please check out my Flying Sparks Indiegogo next week and support my comic effort here. This is, I mean, it's very public how much this makes and how many people back it. So it's very important, to make a stand here. If you're doing it for politics, that's great. I promise I'm going to give you a very good story too. That's just a lot of fun, and there's no politics in that at all.
It sounds like an interesting premise to me. I like the idea of the, sort of
female lead by it's a strong female lead by minority creators. So it actually is.
This sounds awfully suspicious.
That's like the opposite of how you promoted Night Training, where it was all about a guy and the only girl in the story was fawning over him or something.
That promotion worked very well. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is I write all sorts of stuff, and I have characters, and then I take them first and I let them do what they do. So it's not one will look like this and be like this, one will be over here, and they're not all going to be the same the same diversity, because it is homogenous in the rest of fiction now. So please check it out. Flying Sparks. Have a good day, guys.
Yeah. Anyway, well, holy crap, we've been recording. My Audacity's been running for an hour and 20 minutes, and we pretty much started the show like a minute after I started that. So, yeah, the show's been going for an hour and 19 minutes. I don't mind running over or anything. I'm just gonna make it a one solid block, though, since we are mostly a podcast more than a vodcast. I think people could just listen to us in the background, so it's not gonna hurt them to have it in one solid block rather than splitting up like I was before. I did the whole splitting up thing. If you may remember, back last May, because I was at my parents' house and their internet sucks. So uploading took
so much at a time.
Yeah, and because uploading would take hours just for half the show. So
yeah,
so I can do it in a solid block again.
A solid block, much better.
It's also much easier because the show's file size is smaller compared to, say, my YouTube videos. So that's the other reason. So yeah, anyway, let's chat. I mean, I think some of this is probably going to end up dropping actually into the actual show, just because I like our little. Believe it or not, I actually like our little chatter. But yeah, let's talk. I guess let's chat up for another 5-10 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up officially. And
oh, geez, I thought I would bring up the Batwoman thing.
There's way too much to talk about, Lee. I don't think we weren't ever going to get to everything.
No, but that's going to be hot garbage.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I saw.
Are so like SJW driven. It's just everything falls victim to that narrative, and
apparently they were looking to get a lesbian actress to play her, and it's just like. And I'm just like, and I replied to, because I saw it from Daddy Warpig's feed, and I just like, it's like, wow, what an arbitrary checkbox to tick off there, is my actor gay?
Yeah.
And it's just like, how about a better question? Can your actor act?
And that's really what DC sucks at. Mm-hmm. Especially with your TV shows. I mean, Supergirl is the most mind-numbing, asinine, awfully written, horribly acted piece of hot, steaming garbage on TV, and I cannot believe that people watch it. Mm-hmm. I feel strongly about that, but
I know you do.
But yeah, and I think that the reason they're trying so hard to get that particular box checked is because we're hot on the heels of ScarJo, having her trans rub and tug, which is a really gross sounding name.
Yeah, I kept seeing that, and I kept wanting to make jokes about it, but I just like. I make dirty jokes all the time, but I can't even do this one.
Yeah, that's just that bar is a little too low. Anyhow, yeah, it's hot on the heels of that because how dare you have someone pretend to be a character who's pretending to be something else. We cannot have actors and actresses acting like something.
Honestly, part of the thing that's so puzzling about that is like, how many trans actors can there possibly be? Let alone trans actors equality. You know what I mean?
Right. That's just the thing. It's the quality. I mean, because I can just hear what they would say to you, you know, how many can there possibly be? And of course, the outrage, like, well, if they were actually given jobs, you might know. But that doesn't mean they're any good.
It's like maybe the hint there is how many are getting jobs. You know, maybe how many are getting jobs is an indicator of how many talented trans actors there are in the universe. And I'm telling you right now, you could probably count them on your fingers and maybe your toes.
Right. I don't know. Wasn't it BuzzFeed? BuzzFeed had this whole, you know, short video dedicated to trans actors and their struggle and whatever. Just, I recognized one of them. One of them was on a Netflix original, the something 3%.
And Netflix original is kind of telling there. I'm not saying that Netflix doesn't produce good quality content. It's just that you know, it's like it kind of makes sense that you kind of see them there because I'm sure Netflix is kind of doing that sort of thing where they're kind of looking for that kind of talent. You know.
Well, Netflix produces so much like extremely left-wing stuff. Like the majority of their I would say the majority of their original shows are wildly left. So it's not surprising at all, first of all, you know. I'm sure that, and it, you know, the character that I'm thinking of, it didn't even matter that they were trans. It was just sort of, they were someone that another character knew and whatever. So, you know, not horribly done in that context.
Right.
You know, it's just whatever. It is what it is. It's just someone else who lives in the same place and speaks to this other person, whatever. But, you know, just about all of Netflix's comedy shows are wildly left-wing. And I don't know if you saw John Gabriel's piece on Ricochet about the comedy special Nanette, where it I mean, it's not even comedy. Like she, halfway through her routine, she basically says, you know, okay, enough of that, and then lectures for the rest of the time. You know, and naturally people who are trying to promote that are all like, you must be heartless if you don't like this. It's
comedy is dead and the left killed it.
Yeah. You know, I don't go to comedy to cry and be moved and whatever. I go to comedy to laugh. So maybe try some of that.
It was funny, just to go back to our previous conversation with John. Back early on in the conversation, we had talked a bit about how, you know, like the SJWs like to take over fandoms and so forth and try to push out the regular fans and just have they themselves there. And it's actually really interesting because a few days ago, World Class Bullshitters actually posted a video on the whole playbook of that and how it applied to Star Wars. I'm probably going to link that in the description below because I think it's actually a really good video, and how it applies here, you know, and how it applies. But I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation and bring that up, just because, you know, you were just doing it, and so it's just like, okay, I'm gonna let you two talk. But yeah, I read, you know, that's actually something I wanted to bring up in the middle of the conversation though, because it's actually a really good video, like how SGWs will like sort of infiltrate, you know, fandoms and try to, you know, and subvert them and try to transform them from the inside out and just end up ultimately, of course, destroying them.
Right.
And
once they've made it unrecognizable, then they want to blame you for not liking it anymore.
Right. You know, and I think it You know, I think I think it'll go beyond like our, I think our kind of baseline disagreement over whether or not the Last Jedi is an entertaining movie, and more so over the more overarching problems that Star Wars is currently suffering from, which incidentally it may be making a reversal on recently. Go on, you were going to say something. I'll talk about it.
No, just I liked the Last Jedi, but like I've said before, I haven't. When I went into the prequels, like that first one, I Leia hair, the whole nine, and then I kind of left that feeling very disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And then ever since then, I've just sort of, and maybe I'm not expecting a whole lot.
Right.
So episodes 7 and 8, I thought were miles better than the prequels, honestly.
Sorry, I have to disagree with that in 8 versus the prequels. I'm not saying the prequels are better. I'm just saying I'm disagreeing with 8 versus the prequels. 7 versus the prequels, yeah, I can agree with that. But
well,
but we'll discuss that next.
So
we'll discuss that next
felt
week.
like
I think
8 was better than which one was it? 2.
Attack of the Clones. Yeah. Well, almost anything's better than Attack of the Clones, though.
And I don't know.
But I'll tell you this right now. We'll discuss this next week. Next week, I think we'll make the Star Wars episode.
The Star Wars episode.
Because I think we have to discuss it.
Where it's like an hour of Ose ranting.
Kind of, sort of. But no, I'll give you don't worry. I'll give you opportunities to speak. While showing my impatience by kind of doing what John was doing earlier, doing the man spreading thing, and my legs will be all over the place and gonna look like a character model in a video game that's just kind of bugging up and slowly like crumpling in on itself.
Yeah. I really appreciate that you're making space for me in this, this world that is.
Well, I have to show that I appreciate female Star Wars fans.
But I mean, I think I didn't hate 8 the way that you do, because I can appreciate the sort of going with more female characters. So that is a perspective that's a bit different.
And that is a debate for next week. But in the meantime, I was going to mention though that at San Diego Comic-Con, Lucasfilm did announce that they are going to bring back the Clone Wars, because as you may recall, after Disney acquired Lucasfilm, they immediately canceled that series, even though they had an entire season planned and it was in fact partially finished, which eventually got released on Netflix as a half season to kind of cap out the series. And now they're bringing it back, possibly to finish out those final arcs, maybe to do a little bit more, because I did notice in the trailer they showed that they actually updated some of the models and everything. So it's like they're putting more work into it than you would expect. So it might imply that they might try to do a little more work with it than just cap off whatever their last 3 or 4 story arcs might have been. But I'm a little bit excited for that. Given that I've been excited for Star Wars since The Last Jedi came out. About a Star Wars thing since The Last Jedi came out, in no small part due to the way Lucasfilm has reacted to fan backlash. I'm actually mildly excited for this because it does kind of sort of imply a potential course correction at Lucasfilm with regards to how they're treating the fans and how they're treating what the fans desire versus.
Right.
Yeah. And while I will say that I'm not exactly thrilled that they're going back to something that previously existed. First of all, at least they're not going back, all the way back to the original trilogy just to throw nostalgia in our faces. Like really blatantly throw nostalgia in our faces. I don't mind nostalgia. Again, I love Rogue One. But at the same time, like kind of like slapping us across the face with it. But at the same time, it does seem like maybe they're listening. I mean, we'll discuss this next week, because in addition to discussing the franchise itself, I think we'll discuss some of the background elements regarding like how, some of those background elements of like how Kathleen Kennedy and Ryan Johnson and so forth have been handling the backlash.
Right. And see,
But
that's what I was really trying to get to is I can like the movie and still despise how they handled all of the publicity around it. I really think that they've done wrong in that. And I know that on the last time we were talking, we discussed that there did exist some of that sort of toxic fandom, that had like 40 years to cling to their idea of how it all should go. So it was just there were always going to be some fires to put out, but instead of putting out the little small fires, it's like they just started setting really big ones.
I do highly recommend, incidentally, that you watch this World Class Bullshitters video, because it does kind of talk about this this concept a little bit, and it's actually really worth your time, I think.
Okay.
I think it'll help. I think it also helped to frame where some of our conversation will go for the next episode.
I mean, just what we were talking about with John, the disdain with which they treat fans across the board, just in sort of all of various aspects of culture and media. It's so strange, I mean, to act that way, they had to feel that they had a fair bit of power, that they could behave in that way towards people, and people would have no choice but to accept it. And instead, people have sort of gone the independent route.
And that's one of the things that makes me really happy, is the fact that they're actually feeling the backlash. Like we saw that with the NFL, and we're also seeing it with the absolute disaster that Marvel's reboot and DC's reboots are kind of becoming, because, of course, they're tanking the comic industry by doing that. And of course, again, Star Wars backlash. And then, of course, you can look at examples like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, by comparison, being highly successful because it was much more responsive to its fans and not just pushing us all into their face, pushing all this social justice, garbage into their faces. Like you can see examples of what happens when you don't do that. Like it's still possible to make things that fans want, and like lots of fans want, rather, I want to say. And be successful.
Respect the fans, but respect the characters. Respect the
respect the universe, respect the continuity, respect the storytelling.
Yeah. Actually create something that people will enjoy, because it's not like getting beat over the head with a cudgel.
All right. So anyway, we want to thank you for watching this episode of Nerd Rage. It has been an adventure. And honestly, I thought that'd be a lot more awkward than it was, but no. But no, because because I mean, when we had when we had guests on before, it gets a little rocky sometimes, because I think it's a little hard for us to set expectations, I guess, because because I think maybe they might think we're coming onto a professional podcast. No, you're not. You're literally coming onto the dumpster fire. Like we're literally like I described this as a fireside chat, but our fire is a dumpster fire, and we're in tattered rags and trying to keep warm.
Pull up the milk crate and have fun.
Yeah, pull up that cardboard box. Maybe get a couple of planks of wood to support it. Your ass will hurt in the morning, but it'll be fine. Don't worry.
There's going to be a lot of butt hurt over this one. I can feel it.
But yeah, that actually turned out really well. And like I said, I hope to see John again, because he was a lot of fun to talk to.
Oh yeah, you've got to follow him on social media. He's a character. He's definitely a character.
So yes. Anyway, again, thank you all for watching. You got all those links in the description below. I think I'm going to stop that habit of having us recite our various handles or whatever. If you're interested in following us there, you can follow us.
Just click.
You're not idiots. You know what you're doing, I hope. Okay, I don't give myself benefit of doubt. I'm not giving you benefit of doubt, audience. Anyway, And we will catch you next week, hopefully earlier in the week. Things happened this week, and it kind of threw our schedule off. So, anyway, thank you again for watching. We'll catch you again next time for things and stuff in Star Wars.
Lots of Osei ranting about Star Wars.
Listen, this happens once like every 20 episodes, okay? Let's appreciate it. Until next time, everybody.
Yes, grab a drink. Bring your favorite.
The show's over, Shannon. All your safe space will belong to us.
What?
That's his picture. It's a zero wing It's a zero wing parody. It's because you know all your base are belong to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got a picture of Trump looking like that guy, and all your safe space are belong to us. All right. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So yeah.